What's Gucci, everybody? It's AJ here again. Welcome to another C tutorial. And today I'm not going to be teaching you guys anything new from my previous videos, but instead I'm going to go through an example because really I don't have anything else I have learned yet to teach you guys. So I just want to make an example to reiterate through what we've learned in some of the videos. So in this tutorial, if you're following along with me, which I suggest is a good idea, you should include all of these libraries. I don't think you need to include the std.lib, but it's good just for safekeeping anyway. And what we're going to do in this video is we're going to make a function that compares two strings and returns 1 or 0 or true or false if they're equal or not. So before I do this, I'm going to make a header method. So I'm going to make it bool compare, and it's going to take two char pointers, and I'm going to call it string1 and char string2. And now that I have this method header, I'm going to make my actual method below the main method, or I'm going to declare it or define it, as you would say. And what did I forget to do? I forgot to put a char pointer next to the string 2. And then we got some curly braces. And here we go. So what do we want to do? This is how our algorithm with compare is going to work. It takes in two strings, and again, like I said, it's going to be true or false if the strings are equal. So how do we do that? Well, in C, what we can do is we can compare each individual char, and if each individual char is equal, then boom, it's true. And in any other scenario, that is not the case. Every single char needs to be true, and also another trait is that each of these need to be the same length. So that is the first condition I'm going to check for. So two strings cannot be equal if they differ in length, correct? AA is different than AAA or something of that sort. So I'm going to use one helper function in this method called str lang, which just takes the length of your strings. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to say if the string length of string 1 does not equal the string length of string 2, I'm going to return false. Now, if you haven't seen me use this in my tutorials before, I'd just like to say that this is an easy way to write a one-line if statement if your if statement is only one line. So, for instance, if my if statement had more than two basically lines of code, then I would have to use brackets, and I could always use brackets. But if I just had one command I wanted to run, I could also just make it one line like this. Just a little quick pro tip for you guys today. I don't know if it's really a pro tip, but you learn something new every day. And so I'm checking if their length is the same, and if it's not, then I return false. And now I'm going to have a while loop. And what this while loop is going to do is it's going to look through each individual chars of these strings, not numbers, and compare them. So while, and I'm going to check that string 1 does not equal, and then I'm going to set string 1 and make sure it does not equal the null terminating value that is at the end of every correctly made string. So that is the null terminating value that is after every string, and I'm going to check that for string 2 as well. And I need single quotes, not double quotes. Geez, sometimes this gets annoying. Anyway, so now I'm checking both of those. And now inside my while loop, what I'm going to do is, so right now what I'm going to do is I'm going to loop through both of these strings until I find the null terminator. So what I want to do here is, as the while loop goes, the last thing I want to do is I want to increment the pointers as they go along, so I'm looking at a different char each time. So that's what I'm doing at the end here. But before that, I want to compare the individual strings the individual characters using an if statement. So if, let's say, well, let's say I need to dereference the char pointer. So instead of looking at a string, I'm looking at the individual character. So if string1 does not equal the dereference the same character at the same position of string2. I forgot to put a 1 here, and forgot to put equal here instead of a minus. And so if they are not equal, if they're at the same position and they're not equal, that means the string does not add up in that position, and I can return false and stop right there. And that is what is going to be in my while loop. Now, if I make it do all this, if all the strings do equal each other, and I do make it to the null terminator for each of these, and really I only need one of these statements because I've proven in my first if statement up here that the lengths are the same. So I could get rid of one of these, but I think it's a little bit more clear. But maybe if you want it to be a little more concise, you could get rid of this statement because I know that they both are the same length because I've checked for that in the beginning before I've done this loop. So I know that these will both be true at the same condition. But anyway, if I finally have made it through this while loop, I can return true because I know the string is I know that the strings are equal. And I know they're equal because I have looked at each individual char up to the null terminator, and they have been equal to each other, they've been equal to each other, because if they were not equal, the compare statement will return false. So let's test this as any good programmer would do. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to make a char pointer, and I'm going to call it string1, and we're going to call it AJN. Those are my initials. And we're going to make another string called string2, and we are going to call it Jimmy, after a good friend of mine. And now we're going to print out, I'm going to print out the value. And I'm going to do a control D, and I'm going to print out compare. What just happened? And I'm going to print out compare. That's going to compare string 1 and string 2. And it's going to print out 1 if it's true, and 0 if it's false. So hopefully this prints out 0. Let's print it out. And it printed out 0. Ooh. What about if I make this AJN? Would that print out 1? Let me... And for some reason I'm getting an error here. Let me try running it again. Okay guys, sorry I'm back again. I had to cut away, and that is because I had an error in my program. So in my while loop down here, I was checking that while the string 1 does not equal the null terminator and the string 2 does not equal the null terminator, I forgot one very important thing. I forgot to dereference it, so I look at the individual characters in the string. So if I did not do that, what I was hoping for is that the whole character array was containing a null terminator, which is pretty stupid. So I made a dumb mistake, and I should have looked at that before that. I tested this before the video, and I guess I forgot to put those in when I did. But anyway, if I do run this now with those parameters in place, I do get 1, and it is true. Let me try doing something else. Just adding some J's to it. And this is 0 because, well, it's returning false. I can tell you from this first statement because it's checking that the lengths are the same, and they're not, so it returns false. And there's another thing to consider. What if I pass in null? And that will, let's see, give me an error. And that is because I do not account for that. So if I wanted to take account for that, all I would do is I check if the first parameter is null, do this. If they're both null, maybe I want if they're both null to be equal, or if one of them or just one of them is null, then it can never be equal. But that's up to your implementation. But all that would be is a nice if statement. If string 1 equals null, do whatever. But yeah, that's how you can implement this. Remember, I used the type bool, which is a true or false value. which is allowed in C99. And basically, yeah, just remember to dereference your pointers and think about what you're looking at, what each pointer is looking at. So if you want to look at a character individually, like I should have been thinking, you want to dereference it. And so that's a good example of how you can make a compare strings method in C. Well, I hope you guys have a great day, and I'll see you later.